1830, Spain was a country economically broken due to Napoleon Wars. In 1833, Princess Isabella II, then 3 years old, was proclaimed queen, establishing a liberal government, while Ferdinand's seventh brother, Don Carlos, declared himself king. That's why the name of the war. Carlist supporters were from provinces of Castile, Navarre, and the Basque country. There were more supporters in Aragon, Catalonia, and Valencia. Portugal, England, and France quickly offered their support against the Carlists, a clericalist insurrection, centralizing the church. There were guerrillas outside Basque province, always lurking in the shadows of some forest, awaiting for a liberalist soldier caravan. In the mountainous Basque province, the root of the cause, self-sufficient and managed by peasants and priests. While there was a liberalist government in Madrid, a modernization through industrialism and Freemason presence, the Basque province, on the other hand, remained pure traditionalism, led by Tomás de Zumalacárregui, known as the Wolf of Amezcua, due to an victory in Navarre. He was a very capable commander, a veteran of Napoleonic Wars, as during the defense of Zaragoza, really like a wolf, he coordinated ambushes against liberalist patrols in the rugged forests. During his puberty, his father wanted that he was a lawyer. Maybe the battle histories that he listened from his uncle when he was a commander who fought against the resistance of Tupac Amaru II that inspired him to follow the warpath. Zumalacarregui became orphan at 4 years old. He and his mother were from Ormaistegui. 1801, his mother sent him to Idiazabal to learn the practice of scribe with his cousin. After that, spending many months in Pamplona, where he met Pancracia, marrying her in 1820. Tomás had more than 10 brothers. One of his brothers, Miguel, followed the liberalist cause and was a Freemason. These decisions separated the brothers. Miguel, the older, following the jurist path, while Tomás was in charge of training thousands of peasants, teaching them everything he learned when was a guerrilla in the Peninsular War when Spain fought for independence from Napoleonic France. In this period of his life, he had a teacher, the guerrilla Gaspar de Jauregui, also known as El Pastor or the Shepherd, taught him forest warfare, fighting with a small regiment that included Zumalacarregui. As Tomás was someone with a high educational level, he became Gaspar's secretary. As Gaspar didn't know how to read or write, Tomás taught him, so it was like a change of knowledges. His brother Miguel tried many times to make him change sides to liberalist cause. Benjamin Jarnes described he had the landscape as second commander, the use of the rugged forestry territory at his favor to compensate numerical difference. October 22, 5 days before the Battle of Álava, Zumalacarregui sent some troops to occupy Alegría de Álava and after some hours Salvatierra. In the forest of Chinchetru, between these two towns, awaiting for crossing liberalist troops commanded by Manuel O'Doyle, who also marched to Chinchetru forest. Zumalacarregui at afternoon could see at the heights of Chinchetru the enemy army coming from east. Then he spread his army on the heights and plains outside Chinchetru with the first Guias de Navarre. As the liberalists were approaching, a scout infantry who were too advanced first spotted them recognizing by the red berets. They were completely surrounded. Iturralde flanked them by the right flank. The first musket discharges caused many casualties. O'Doyle was taken by surprise and his troops broke formation. Many were captured after a Carlist bayonet charge, including O'Doyle, who was executed a few days later with some comrades. October 28, 1834. General Osma knew that the remaining troops from O'Doyle that had managed to escape were being besieged in the church of Arriera. Osma came to rescue them with troops. On the hill Quilchano, they could see Zumalacarregui's troops at 2 p.m. Knowing the liberalist defensive intentions, Zumalacarregui acknowledged cannon positions and advanced, but without reaching the reach of the cannons, turning north and getting into Dalo Hills, flanking the Liberalists who were at the top, with the 1st and 3rd Guias de Navarre. Another disaster for the Liberalists. Osma later bitterly reported what happened in Vitoria. On December 14, 1834, Carlist troops were in the valley of the La Berrueza, where Zumalacarregui planned to do as Hannibal of Carthage in Canas, planning to attract the enemy to the center of his formation in U. Marcelino Orá, an experienced commander who, like Zumalacarregui, had fought in the Peninsular War, perceived Zumalacarregui concave formation, ignored the plan of his superior and went to Mendaza, obliging the Carlists to break the advantageous formation behind stone walls and becoming exposed to Liberalist mounted artillery, so they disbanded this position, crossing the valley of the river Iga. December 15, General Córdoba was informed that Zumalacarregui was in the plains of Santa Cruz de Campezo, Urbizo and Zúñiga. Córdoba had planned to climb Codés mountains, descending until Santa Cruz de Campezo, confronting Carlist right flank. The remaining troops would go north to Los Arcos and when get to Acedo, divide between Córdoba west, crossing Arquijas bridge, where presumably Carlists would be waiting. Orá would cross another bridge, reaching to Zúñiga, the Carlist rearguard. The commanders divided as planned. After many kilometers of march, Orá's troops started to hear the artillery roar of Córdoba trying to get to Arquijas. Orá spotted Carlist contingents north and south, entrenching themselves. Suddenly, Carlist volleys start to hit the troops from above stone hills. The Liberalist Caçadores climb higher parts to dislodge Carlists from there. After more marching through deep forests near the chapel of Santa Maria de Zúñiga, Carlist forces were detected entrenched on a bridge. The rugged territory favored the Carlists, and there was a tough battle there. The Liberalists weren't able to occupy the positions after many casualties at the borders of the river. Between those rugged holes, if a Carlist was hit, another would promptly substitute his position. Not able to meet due to the impossibility to cross the bridge, when the night had come, they decided to interrupt the operation and go north. In March and April 1835, with the action of Laremiar against Francisco Esposo Mina and the action of Artaza against Jerônimo Valdés, were forced to dismantle the strategic garrisons of Maestu, Alsácia, Elizondo, Santesteban, and Urdax, among others, leaving as the only garrisons those of the capitals of the Basque provinces and Pamplona, and some ports on the coast. In the spring of 1835, Charles returned to the Basque country from his exile in England to take command. On June 6, 1835, the French Minister of the Interior, Adolphe Thiers, convoked foreigners to enter Spain in Madrid, raising the banner of Liberalist cause. Zouave Captain Desmoyens wrote that some legionnaires served against their will, saying that they wanted to fight for France. Few officers agreed to serve in Spain. Some preferred to desert to Kader's army in the Sahara Desert. The French government sent 2 representatives to explain to the legionnaires that those who served in the Liberalist cause against the Carlist insurrection would soon obtain French citizenship. In November 1835, the majority of the foreign legionnaires were in Spain. Colonel Bernal used the experience in Armée d'Afrique to organize the troops. The Battle of Mecta had lowered the regiment in numbers. There was 123 officers in command of some 5,000 men, semi-soldiers, veterans of the Napoleonic Wars, remnants of the Royal Guard recruited from the region of Spain. According to Sergeant von Rosen, not all the officers who joined the ranks were decent. Some had alcoholism, abuse of authority on their records. Bernal, who refused to serve in a national battalion, used to ease the rivalries emerged between Poles and Italians after the Battle of Macta. he used to organize the regiments in mixed nationalities, with the exception when he formed a regiment of Polish lancers because he didn't have time to train cavalry and the Poles were experienced. Many of them remnants of the Napoleonic Wars. The Song of the Legion in Spain is attributed to Sergeant Major Hipólito Bon, forged nobles fighting against tyranny. Legionnaires were singing this song when they were on the Spanish coast. Captain Abel Gallant described Victoria as a simple town with a river with snow-capped mountains. There were only women. The men were in the mountains fighting the insurgents. The women looked like Arabs with their black dresses and shawls, avoiding as much as possible the legionnaires, who already had a reputation in Spain as lawless killers. When in battle in the presence of the Carlists, it was common to make gestures with the little finger and the index as horns. The legionnaires defended Senahúga after a 4-day Carlist siege. In June 1835, Zumalacarregui carried out blitzkrieg raids. Carlos then ordered Zumalacarregui to besiege Bilbao, which he obeyed reluctantly. Carlos didn't consider the fact that most of his contingent was rural. Although they were excellent warriors, they lacked the experience or equipment to carry out a siege. June 15, 1835, Zumalacarregui was hit in the leg by a musket ball during a mission of fortification reconnaissances. The surgeon attended him immediately, but the general prohibited him to operate. He was transferred to Segama, 60 kilometers from Bilbao, dying on June 24. The loss of Zumalacarregui was a deep mangling for the Carlists, as the Wolf of Amescua was responsible for blitzkrieg attacks in liberalist ammo caravans, and with the failure to convince the Catalans to join the cause, became a matter of time for the liberalist victory.